My heart monitor beeped steadily as I watched my parents pack their beach bags. The morning sun streamed through the hospital window, illuminating the pristine white walls of my private room. Not that they'd noticed it was private. They hadn't noticed much about my medical career over the past 8 years. "Sarah, you're being dramatic about this whole thing," Mom said, adjusting her designer sun hat. "It's just gallbladder surgery. Routine procedure." She barely glanced at the IV in my arm or the pre-op monitors surrounding my bed. Dad checked his Rolex again, impatience written across his face. "The beach house is waiting, and you know how traffic gets to the coast. We've been planning this weekend for months." I nodded quietly, maintaining my calm despite the familiar ache in my chest that had nothing to do with my upcoming surgery. "Of course, I understand." My sister Amanda burst into the room, already wearing her swimsuit under a sheer cover-up. "Is she still going on about us staying? God, Sarah, it's not like you're dying. Some of us have actual lives." She rolled her eyes, dropping into the visitor's chair and scrolling through her phone. 8 years. 8 years of medical school, residency, and building my career while they dismissed every achievement. They still introduced me as their daughter who works at the hospital. Technically true but deliberately vague. "The nurses will check on you," Mom assured me, though her attention was on her reflection in the window as she applied another coat of lipstick. "That's what we pay them for, right?" I suppressed a small smile at the irony. "Right, that's what they're paid for." And honestly, Amanda chimed in, "If you had a real job instead of just hanging around the hospital all day, you could afford your own private room instead of this standard setup." She gestured vaguely at my surroundings, never noticing the subtle differences that marked this as one of the hospital's exclusive suites. Dad checked his watch again. "We need to get going if we want to beat traffic. The beach house won't wait, and this heat wave is supposed to be perfect for swimming." "The procedure's at noon," I said softly. "Dr. Richards is scheduled to perform it." "Oh good, at least you're getting a real doctor," Mom said, picking up her designer beach bag. "Not one of those young residents who barely know what they're doing." I thought about Dr. Richards, about Emily, who I'd personally mentored through her residency 5 years ago, who was now one of our most promising surgical attendings. "Yes, she's very qualified." "Well then you're all set," Dad declared. "We'll check in tomorrow when we get back. Try not to bother the nurses too much. They have real emergencies to deal with." The irony almost made me laugh. Almost. Amanda stood, finally looking up from her phone. "There's a cute male nurse on the 3rd floor. Maybe you can finally find a date while you're stuck here. God knows you need one." I thought about my girlfriend Claire, the head of cardiology, and simply smiled. Maybe. They gathered their bags, already discussing beach plans and dinner reservations. Not one of them had asked about the surgery details, recovery time, or why their supposedly entry-level hospital worker daughter had a private suite. "Don't forget your follow-up appointment," Mom called over her shoulder as they headed for the door. "You know how busy Dr. Harrison gets with his schedule." Dr. Harrison, my direct report as chief of surgery, the man who'd practically begged me to take the medical director position last year when I was considering offers from Mayo Clinic. "I won't forget," I said quietly. The door closed behind them, leaving me alone in the private suite that Amanda thought was a standard room. I checked my own watch, a subtle Patek Philippe that cost more than their beach house, and counted down in my head. 3, 2, 1. My phone lit up with a message from Emily Richards. "Pre-op labs ready, Chief. Everything looks good for noon." Then another from Claire in cardiology. "Just reviewed your cardiac clearance personally. All perfect. Love you." And finally, right on schedule, the hospital CEO's name flashed across my screen. "Sarah, just found out about your surgery. Why didn't you tell me? And why are you alone? Where's your family?" I typed back a simple response. "They had beach plans." His reply was immediate. "Unacceptable. Calling them now." I leaned back against the pillows, knowing exactly what would happen next. The CEO would call my parents' phones. When they didn't answer, he'd call the beach house. When they arrived, they'd find the reservation mysteriously canceled. By then the message would be clear. Their daughter wasn't just working at the hospital. The head nurse poked her head in. "Dr. Bennett, your pre-op team is ready whenever you are." I nodded, finally allowing myself a small smile. "Thank you, Janet. Let's get started." My phone began buzzing with a series of increasingly frantic messages, just as the pre-op team was finishing their preparations. I could picture my family arriving at the beach house, only to find their reservation had vanished. Dr. Bennett, Janet said, adjusting my IV line, your parents have called the front desk 4 times in the last 10 minutes. I glanced at the messages flooding my screen. Dad, Sarah, what's going on? The beach house says our reservation was canceled by the property owner. Mom, the hospital CEO keeps calling. What did you tell them? Amanda, OMG, why is the chief of surgery calling me? Should we put their calls through? Janet asked, a knowing glint in her eye. She'd been my head nurse for 6 years, and knew exactly who I was. No need, I replied calmly. They'll figure it out soon enough. As if on cue, my tablet lit up with a video call from the hospital CEO. I accepted it, and Robert's concerned face filled the screen. Sarah, this is unacceptable. Your parents hung up on me 3 times before I could explain who I was. Do they even know you're having surgery today? They know I'm having what they called a minor procedure, I replied, my voice steady. They had beach plans. Robert's face reddened. Beach plans. Our medical director is having surgery, and they went to the beach. I've already called the board. Dr. Harrison is livid. Robert, it's fine. It's not fine, he cut in. The entire medical staff is talking about this. Dr. Richards is ready to postpone the surgery until your family can be here. I shook my head. The surgery proceeds as scheduled. I have all the support I need right here. I gestured to my medical team, who stood ready and professional, despite the drama unfolding. Another series of messages flashed across my phone. Dad, the hotel says all their properties are blocked for hospital staff today. Mom, Sarah, what's going on? Why does everyone keep calling you Dr. Bennett? Amanda, why is my card declined at the beach restaurant? I muted the notifications just as Claire walked in, still in her cardiology scrubs. She took my hand, not caring who saw. Your family just tried to pull rank at the front desk. Your sister actually said, don't you know who our daughter is? The irony was spectacular. A small laugh escaped me. Let me guess, they still think I'm a nurse. Administrative assistant actually, Claire corrected with a smirk. Your mother was very insistent about speaking to your supervisor. The door burst open, and my family stormed in, still in their beach attire. They stopped short at the sight of the full medical team, the private suite's equipment, and Claire holding my hand. What is going on? Dad demanded, his face red. Every hotel in the beach town is suddenly booked. Our cards are declined, and people keep calling us about some medical director. Dr. Bennett, Dr. Richards interrupted smoothly as she entered. We're ready to begin your procedure whenever you're comfortable. She turned to my family with professional courtesy. I'm Dr. Richards, chief resident under your daughter's supervision. We've been quite concerned about her family's absence during pre-op. The color drained from my mother's face. Supervision. But Sarah's just the medical director of this hospital. Claire finished firmly, squeezing my hand. Chief of surgery, youngest board member, and the reason this hospital's surgical department is ranked 3rd in the country. Amanda's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, her beach cover-up suddenly looking very out of place among the white coats and bed. Dad struggled to form words. The CEO called us. The beach house, the cards. The CEO, I finally spoke, keeping my voice calm, was concerned that the medical director was having surgery without family support. The beach properties are part of the hospital's corporate holdings. And your cards? I paused, allowing the smallest smile. Those were declined because the accounts they're linked to require my authorization as primary holder. The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Bennett, Janet interrupted gently. It's time for pre-op medications. I nodded. Thank you, Janet. I turned to my stunned family. You should head home. As you said, it's just a minor procedure. The nurses can handle it, Sarah. Mom started, but Claire cut her off. I believe my girlfriend said professionally. Dr. Bennett needs to prepare for surgery now. The waiting room is down the hall, if you'd like to stay. Or I hear the beach is lovely this time of year. As the medications began to take effect, I saw my family being ushered out, their beach bags hanging limply from their shoulders. The last thing I heard before drifting off was Amanda's voice. All this time, she was their boss. I woke up in recovery to the sound of hushed arguments outside my private suite. Through the fog of post-operative medication, I could hear my family trying to assert themselves at the nurse's station. "We're her parents," Mom's voice insisted. "We have a right to. All visitors must be approved by Dr. Bennett." Janet's professional tone cut through. "Those are hospital protocols that our medical director herself implemented." "But that's exactly what we're trying to tell you," Dad's frustrated voice carried through. "We didn't know she was." "Dr. Bennett's status is irrelevant to the protocol," Janet interrupted. "No approval, no entry, those are her rules." I pressed the call button, and Janet appeared within seconds. "They can come in," I said softly, my throat dry from intubation. My family filed in, looking completely different from the beach-ready group from this morning. Their designer clothes were wrinkled from hours of waiting room chairs, and their faces showed a mix of embarrassment, confusion, and dawning realization. Amanda spoke first, her voice uncharacteristically small. "The nurses, they all call you Dr. Bennett." "Yes," I replied simply. "And the way they look at you," Mom added, "like they're respectful of their medical director." Claire finished, entering the room in fresh scrubs. She checked my vitals with practiced efficiency before taking her usual spot beside my bed. "Dr. Richard says your surgery went perfectly, by the way. Not that we expected anything less." Dad sank into a chair, looking older than I'd ever seen him. 8 years. "You've been here 8 years. And we never asked." I completed for him. "Never came to any of my ceremonies. Never wondered why I could afford my penthouse apartment, or why I always paid for family dinners. But you never said anything," Amanda burst out. "You let us think." "I let you think what you wanted to think," I corrected calmly. "You decided I was just working at a hospital. You decided I couldn't afford things. You decided I was alone and unsuccessful." The silence that followed was heavy with 8 years of assumptions and dismissals. A knock at the door preceded Robert's entrance. The hospital CEO walked in, tablet in hand. "Sarah, the board sends their best wishes. We've rescheduled tomorrow's leadership meeting, and oh," he noticed my family. "I see they finally made it back from their beach plans." Mom flinched at his tone. "The beach house," Dad started, "the cards being declined." "Hospital property," Robert confirmed coldly. "And as for your cards, well, perhaps you should ask Dr. Bennett about the family trust she's been managing. The one that owns your house, cars and funds, most of your lifestyle choices." I shot Robert a warning look. He'd always been protective of me, ever since I'd turned around the hospital's failing surgical department 3 years ago. "The trust." Mom's voice wavered. "But your father managed that. Grandfather left me in charge 5 years ago." I explained quietly. "He saw what I was building here. He knew I could handle it." Amanda's designer purse, the one I'd bought her for Christmas, slipped from her fingers. "All those gifts, the vacations you paid for." "Speaking of payments," Claire interjected, checking my charts, "the hospital board has requested a review of all family member treatments provided here over the past 5 years. Standard protocol, when reviewing the medical director's benefits package." My family paled collectively. They'd taken full advantage of the free medical care they assumed came from my low-level hospital job. "I trust that won't be necessary," I said to Claire, though my eyes were on my family. "Unless there are concerns about preferential treatment." "No," they chorused quickly. Robert cleared his throat. "Well, I should get back to damage control. Your sister's social media rant about being denied beach access has already been contained, but the board members who follow her were surprised by her characterization of their medical director." Amanda's face went crimson as she grabbed her phone, presumably to delete her posts. "Dr. Bennett needs rest," Janet announced from the doorway, her tone making it clear this wasn't a suggestion. My family stood awkwardly, clutching their beach bags like lifelines. We'll come back tomorrow." Mom's statement came out as a question. "If Dr. Bennett approves visitors," Janet reminded them firmly. As they shuffled out, I heard Amanda whisper, "Did you see her girlfriend is the head of cardiology, and her mentor is the chief of surgery?" Dad responded numbly. "Actually, I called after them, unable to resist one final revelation. Dr. Harrison reports to me. I'm his boss too." The door closed on their shocked faces, and I finally allowed myself to relax into the pillows. "Well," Claire said, squeezing my hand, That was more entertaining than the beach.